Welcome to the Exam Study Expert Podcast, helping you ace your exams at school and university through the psychology of high performance and the science of studying smarter, not harder. It's my pleasure to introduce your host, the Cambridge-trained memory psychologist and exam success coach, William Wadsworth.
You've been working hard. How do you make sure you're getting the chance to rest and recharge mind, body, and soul that we all so badly need to help you keep working with maximum focus and energy and avoid going down the road to exhaustion and even burnout? Camilla is here today to talk about why rest can be hard and one potential solution to the challenge in the form of a practice called deep rest, which she's going to explain a little bit about today. If you'd like to experience the magic of deep rest for yourself, then I have some good news because I've hired Camilla to run a live deep rest session exclusively for us next month as a special bonus as part of the Scholars Way Mindset program we're also running next month. So if you've already enrolled in the Scholars Way, look out for the details on how to join the session. If you're listening in the future, both the Scholars Way and Camilla's Deep Rest session should be available for you on demand as well. Either way, head to examstudyexpert.com/TSW to get onto the program. If you'd like a mini sample of the practice, Camilla has even recorded a 10-minute sort of micro version of a deep rest session, which you can access completely free of charge. My little gift to you at examstudyexpert.com/rest. If you like it, I hope you'll be able to join us as part of the Scholars Way to experience the magic of a full-length 1-hour session. But then, as I say, if you can't join the Scholars Way for any reason, then that mini session is our gift for you to enjoy. That's again at examstudyexpert.com/rest for that little taster version. And with that, let's meet Camilla.
Hi, everybody. My name is Camilla, and I help people rest, which might sound like an interesting proposition. How do we do that? So I use what is called deep rest, which is a practice rooted in Yoga Nidra, which comes out of a long-standing meditative tradition, but which has sort of been adjusted and adapted for modern life in ways that can accommodate the busyness and intensity of kind of the way we're living now, because obviously we can't necessarily just disappear off to a monastery and devote ourselves purely to contemplation.
I'd love to just find out a little bit more about the practice itself in a moment. It might be worth just saying you're no stranger to scholarship yourself at a pretty high level. We first met when we were doing our respective university courses.
Yeah, that's right. So Will and I met at Christ's Cambridge, and I was studying English, and my initial journey was straight from school. I really thought that I wanted to be an academic. That was my intention and the direction. That's where I thought life was going to take me. And actually, for various reasons, that didn't transpire. But I would say that some of my most profound mental health challenges revealed themselves in that context of academic excellence and, arguably, I would say quite a high level of pressure. And there have been moments where I've looked back on that time and thought, gosh, if I'd chosen differently, would I have experienced those struggles? And who knows? We don't get to do a control version of our life experience. But in many ways, I'm grateful for the fact that those things were revealed by that environment, because it brought me into close contact with aspects of my psyche, aspects of myself that, I think, as with many of us, things will trigger us, things will kind of challenge us in life regardless. And we don't necessarily know when that might happen. But for me, dealing with some of those core, I suppose, wounds or areas that were triggered by that kind of high pressure academic environment have led me on a journey that has been really quite surprising. I never would have expected that the last 10 years would have unfolded quite as they have. But I would say it has been a rewarding and fascinating journey.
Yeah. Even though I guess experiences were, may have been pretty darn difficult at the time, I guess sort of seeing the silver lining in that, and seeing the positive in terms of, even in times of adversity, what can we learn from that? Sometimes we find it difficult to give ourselves the time and space to rest that we need. Maybe just touch on that briefly, because I think so many people resonate with your thoughts on that.
Yeah, totally. So, how familiar is it that we kind of get into a mindset where we look at ourselves and go, oh, if I could only just, give myself a bit of time to maybe do a meditation, I've done that before and that was really helpful, and I'll just do that. And then you said that on Monday and now it's Friday and, I didn't get round to it. So there can be that sort of procrastinatory tendency to think, these are some supportive things that I could do for myself. But then we rarely, well, some of us, yeah, myself included, I'm better now than I used to be, but historically would go, why haven't I done that? I know what I need to do, but I just can't seem to do it. And so some of the things that, again, the practice has helped me discover have been, there's a part of me that feels a bit guilty about stopping or about doing less, because I think there's such a pressure to be doing more. And that comes from all angles, whether it's academic or just in life in general. We often will perceive a time scarcity, especially if we're in the habit of dealing with deadlines and, that kind of externally imposed sense of urgency around getting something done. That can so often be internalized into a state of, I don't have time to do stuff for me. I've just got to get my work done. And then when I've got my work done, then I'll feel good. Then I'll feel able to relax. So there's that kind of logic that will very cleverly tell us that when we get the thing done, we'll feel more rested. But so often my question to people is, okay, but how would your ability to perhaps come back to doing that thing benefit from you taking a rest now? And of course, if it's literally the day before the deadline, this may not be the best day for the conversation.
Or maybe it is.
Maybe it is. And it can be really helpful to challenge some of those beliefs that are very, hardwired around achievement, perhaps being the be all and end all over and above how we are as we are moving towards our goals. But yeah, so time pressure is a big one. There can be a fear factor, we're so used to being so busy that it's quite straightforward and simple in many ways. Well, what will happen if I stop? What will happen to me if I do nothing and it sounds silly, but even for 15 minutes or half an hour.
Yeah. And
that fear often isn't necessarily something you might hear your mind say. It can be quite residual and sort of like background noise, or just something that you might feel at a physiological level. The prospect of relaxing might feel like it produces more tension. One of the things this practice looks into on a physical level is how we can navigate some of those opposites.
Yeah, maybe just talk a little bit about the kind of the work you do with the deep rest practice and how it might be helpful to scholars and students.
Essentially, deep rest is a guided meditation that is designed to help you explore something called the hypnagogic state, which exists for all of us every day. We pass into it every night as we drop off to sleep. So it's that in-between state that's just between sleep and wakefulness, where we may see imagery, it's a little bit dreamlike, we may suddenly remember things, it may be completely incoherent. And the reason why it can be such a fruitful state to foster consciously is that while we're in that space, while we're in that liminal state, the body goes quite deeply into a parasympathetic nervous system dominant state. So that's the classic rest and digest state that we all might recognize when we kind of, it can happen actually in lots of different places in life, but when we get that sense of, in general, which I think a lot of us are missing and often without realizing. And what's interesting for me about supporting people through exploring that consciously is that can reveal all the some of the internal barriers that we may have around being able to experience restfulness while we're in the throes of our lives. Because, okay, great, probably most of us could relax if we went off and had a lovely holiday and sat on the beach, or, did whatever it was for us that was our chill place. But that can feel a million miles away when you're in the middle of revision, or if you're trying to remember everything that you need for your exam, or just your ongoing studies. Yeah. So the premise of what I help people access on a day-to-day basis is to find within themselves and their own nervous system those experiences, but without having to fly halfway around the world and sit on a sunny beach or whatever it might be.
Well, sounds good to me. Camilla, if anyone listening is thinking, well, this sounds great, how do I get to experience that? We have a plan, do we not? Tell us a little bit about what we'll be offering people next month.
So, I'm really, really excited and delighted to be sharing this with you. And yeah, it'll be an hour-long session, so a deep rest session. And the intention behind this is to just help you access that state of deep being that can be so fruitful and beneficial for supporting, the needs of being a student or studying and being in that whole realm. So in that hour, we'll begin with just a kind of short orientation to the practice, to kind of understanding what's going to happen. I often will lead with a shorter, so sort of 5 to 10 minute self-inquiry practice, which is designed to just help you touch into how you can get the most out of the session. So what's brought you here? What about this, spoke to you? And why is that? What is it in you that is feeling somewhat called by the prospect of rest? Because that can just help open up the deeper aspects of the practice with how they can relate to your specific needs and where you are in that moment in time. That short practice will just give you a sense of some focus for the ensuing, usually about 45 minutes practice, which is the deeper, longer, full deep rest practice. And that, as I said, is a guided meditation that will carry you through this hypnagogic state. So it's very common for you to kind of drift in, drift out, not hear necessarily every word for word. And actually, if that happens, that's kind of an indication that you're really experiencing the practice fully. Often people go, oh no, I missed a bit. But that's kind of what we want. We want you to be in that state of deep parasympathetic nervous system dominance. And if you're really, really tired, you may well even fall asleep. And I would again encourage seeing that as this is about touching into what you need. So if your body does fall asleep, that may well be an important messenger for you that that's what you needed most from this session. If you don't fall asleep, there will be equal benefits to you in terms of getting the chance to explore sensation. So we'll go through a body scan. Again, that's coming from this lens of not trying to relax, but just actually be with what's here. We'll touch into breathing. So observing the breath and dropping this sense of doing. And when we have a physiological anchor for that, it can be a very supportive and again, net result relaxing experience without trying to push any other things away. You'll be invited to cultivate a deep sense of well-being and ease in a very personal way to you. You don't have to reveal any of that to anybody. That's just internal for your own reflection. But that's something that can be built up as a resource that you can take away from this practice. So at any time you can touch back into that without going through the whole protocol. And that's often something people find really helpful. There'll be a sort of reflective phase at the very end where you're encouraged to visualize and really kind of imagine moving into your day-to-day, moving into the demands of your everyday routine or lifestyle with this as an internal toolkit.
How will we feel at the end? What might you expect to feel at the end, other than and possibly in some cases asleep.
Yeah, you might be or feel sleepy. Commonly, people feel very spacious. Sometimes that might be a kind of sense of, wow, I don't know really what happened to that half an hour. Often people might experience a sense of time dissolving, or often people will look up or kind of come to and go, was that 45 minutes? Whoa, I don't know where I went. But usually in a good way.
Yeah.
People often feel extremely physically restful and calm. And sometimes even that can be a surprise. So sometimes people will go, I haven't felt like this for years. And so there's almost a sort of processing that then goes on as they touch into a physical state of being that usually is extremely welcome. Most of the time people move very slowly. I often need to give people quite, at least 5 minutes to kind of come back from this experience, because they've gone somewhere really, really lovely, and they don't necessarily want to come back in the blink of an eye. Often people will have quite a bit to reflect on. Insights often come through. So people will commonly say, oh my gosh, I didn't realize da 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 da. Or they might find solutions to things. And I know there's a slight paradox perhaps in hearing that, because those solutions are the kind that emerge when we don't seek them out.
Yeah.
So the kind, I'd say it can be akin to some of those sort of penny drop moments where you might be just doing the washing up, or having a shower, or driving, or doing something that's actually not particularly mentally involving at all, but where suddenly something just pops into your mind and you go, oh, I know what I'm going to do about that meeting, or that's what, so those sorts of moments are quite common for people. And often this is an evening practice. So people often just sort of go, oh, I'm just going to put my pajamas on and go to bed.
Yeah.
Which always feels like a sort of nourishing response.
Yeah. Beautiful. Well, thank you, Camilla. And again, if you'd like to sample a mini deep rest session, we have a 10-minute taster available for you completely free of charge at examstudyexpert.com/rest. Our little gift to you today. I tried it myself, and honestly, it's amazing. It's just how Camilla describes it. It's not quite like going to sleep, but you end up in this incredibly peaceful, deeply restful state. I'm booked in for the full session in a few weeks' time, and I can't wait for that. Again, the full session with Camilla, which is coming live in a few weeks, or the catch-up will, I'm sure, be available in the future as well, is included as a special bonus within our mindset program next month, The Scholar's Way. And I suspect that could be just the thing you need amid all your hard work at the moment. Again, to enroll in The Scholar's Way and enjoy access to the wonderful deep rest session with Camilla, as well as the rest of the program to help you find peace and purpose, flow and freedom in your studies, head to examstudyexpert.com/TSW, as in The Scholar's Way. That's examstudyexpert.com/TSW. And both those links are, of course, in the show notes as always. Thanks so much for listening today. It's been wonderful to have your company, and I'd just like to wish you a very restful rest of your day.